Good morning, welcome to Catex TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast. It's Thursday, September 2nd, 2010 at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's 4:30 p.m. in London, 12:30 in Bermuda, and 10:30 in Mexico City. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CatexTV. On this date, 1945, World War II ended. The Japanese signed the surrender document on the USS Missouri, a battleship sitting in Tokyo Harbor. And also in 1666, the Great Fire of London occurred. 13,000 homes were burned. 400 acres of downtown London were burned to a crisp. We'll go to our main story. The main story is Hurricane Earl. First of all, here's the hurricane picture overall. Let's pull this up. You see Earl is all the way to the left. Fiona is right behind it. Gaston is a new one that's probably about 700 or 800 miles west of the leeward of the Cape Verde Islands, heading west. The big problem with Earl, let's pull the next one up, is that right now it's a Category 4 storm. It's got winds of about 145 miles an hour. It's currently located about 480 miles south-southeast of Cape Hatteras. And the storm path is really one of degrees. If it stays to the east, it's only going to glancingly brush by the American East Coast. If it stays to the center, it's going to have tropical storm winds along the coast. If it goes to the west, we could have a big problem, or, God forbid, worst of all, if it doesn't change track, if it doesn't turn. If it doesn't turn, it's going to churn right into South Carolina and North Carolina. National Hurricane Center is watching this very closely. They expect that the first encounter with the American mainland should happen at about midnight tonight. So it's got about 12 and a half hours to go. So we'll see. The president has declared an emergency in the state of North Carolina and the state of South Carolina, so everybody's ready. It's going to be very interesting to watch. AIR is already indicating that insured losses from Hurricane Earl's journey through the Leeward Islands earlier this week will be in the range of $50 million to $150 million. This is according to AIR worldwide. The CAT modeling firm said that this loss estimate included wind damage to onshore properties in the VI, St. Martin, and Puerto Rico. Nearly half of the loss is believed to be concentrated in St. Martin. They also note that the last major storm to make landfall in North Carolina was Floyd in 1999. That caused $2 billion of insured damage in 1999 dollars. Here's Typhoon Kompasu. Kompasu is churning through the South China Sea now, heading to Japan. It struck South Korea earlier today, killed at least 2 people, caused severe disruption to power and transport networks. All flights into Gimpo International Airport in Seoul were canceled. 20 international flights into Incheon over on the west coast were canceled. More than 100 homes were damaged. The winds reached 120 miles an hour. They're the strongest in the area in 10 years. In the United States, surprising job news, first-time claims for unemployment benefits actually fell by 6,000 to 472,000 in the week ending August 28th. The 4-week average declined 2,500 to 485,000. The unemployment rate then altogether dropped from 10.1 million people down to 9.7 million people collecting unemployment benefits. Also, we should note that just before we came on the air, pending home sales news was released. They actually increased in the United States by 5.2% during the month of July. We'll go to a word from our sponsors. We reported yesterday a short story from Insurance Insider that Jubilee's Clive Busnell had stepped down. We have some more detail on that now. Busnell stepped down from the position less than 4 months after first joining the company. He stepped down from the position of CEO. Jubilee's previous CEO, Andreas Lukaitis, will replace Busnell subject to approval from the FSA and Lloyd's. Jubilee has not revealed why Busnell left, although it's understood a difference of opinion regarding the insurer's future strategy is at the heart of his decision. Busnell took up the CEO position at Jubilee at the beginning of May. He left his previous position at Exchanging. Lukaitis moved into the role as the insurer's group development director. Lukaitis himself had only taken on the role of CEO at Jubilee in July of 2009. Busnell is going to stay around the company as a consultant for a quote-unquote interim period. He's going to help ensure a smooth transition of responsibilities. Nelson Re, which is a sidecar owned by Glacier Re, has been downgraded to negative. Specifically, two classes of cat bond notes that they're dealing with. $67.5 million of Class G notes are some concern, $54 million of H notes, and another $67 million of Class I notes. Nelson is a cat bond vehicle of Glacier. Glacier, of course, announced last week it's going into runoff. Moody's has noted that as the Glacier Re business runs off, this will reduce some of the cat risk to Nelson Re investors. But Moody also notes that Glacier Re might have less incentive to make its reinsurance payments to Nelson Re. Most of the now newly lowly rated cat bonds concern U.S. hurricane and earthquake events, most likely to have been impacted by Hurricane Ike. Also, one other tranche of the downrated instruments cover European windstorm. The head of the European Bank, Jean-Claude Trichet, is saying that the European Central Bank has raised its growth forecast for this year and for next year after healthy second quarter performance in the 16 countries that use the euro. Trichet said that recent economic data shows that the Eurozone had been competing more strongly than expected. He said that looking ahead, the recovery should proceed at a moderate pace. He said that the ECB is now projecting growth this year of 1.4 to 1.8%, a range that centers on a 1.6% median, up from the 1% forecast just given in June. Its forecast for 2011 was for growth between 0.5% and 2.3%. That range centers on a 1.4% median, up from previous 1.2%. He reiterated his statement of last month that we do not declare victory, although the prospect of a double-dip recession is not in the cards at this time. Here's an interesting story. This is essentially computers trading with other computers when regular investors like you and me invest our money in the stock market. The SEC is looking into a Wall Street trading practice in which unusually large numbers of orders to buy or sell stocks are placed in a fraction of a second, only to be canceled almost immediately. The SEC is analyzing whether the trading practice known as quote stuffing is placing some investors at a disadvantage by distorting stock prices. Oh, really? Yeah, I can tell you that it does place some investors at disadvantages. The SEC is looking at whether quote stuffing played any role in the May 6th flash crash when American stock markets suffered a record fall within just a few minutes. The SEC is also looking at whether a practice called sub-penny pricing is used to manipulate the market. In sub-penny pricing, orders are priced in increments as small as 1/10 of a cent and placed far away from the actual price at which the stock is falling. This is going to be very interesting to see what happens. If you noticed, about 2 or 3 years ago, the Wall Street trading houses were going ballistic as departing IT employees were supposedly selling proprietary algorithms to their new employers. At the time, everybody shrugged, thinking that it was just some trading algorithm that had been developed. But in fact, what they are very sophisticated triggering mechanisms that are used by the trading houses to process vast volumes of trades in nanoseconds only to reverse them again instantly in order to make money on the holding for just a second. Well, for the final story, if you didn't have enough to worry about, this is a terrible story, but it has to be run. Up in Buffalo, New York, this story comes out. Obviously, this is a picture of two big tractor trailers on an interstate highway in the U.S. Well, yesterday, a truck driver who ended up in an accident in which he plowed into the back of a car that had been parked in the breakdown lane on the right-hand side of the highway, killing a housewife and a mother of three. Admitted that he had been tired. That's unfortunately typical of truck drivers. But also he was distracted by pornography when he was driving the truck that smashed into the vehicle. The truck driver's name is Thomas Wallace. He read a tearful letter of apology. He was sentenced to 9.5 years in jail for a manslaughter charge. It also came out during the court sentencing that Mr. Wallace was distracted because he was watching online pornographic movies on a laptop computer at the time he was driving his truck. Authorities also said that Wallace was driving on no more than 4.5 hours of sleep over the previous 27 hours of driving. He plowed into the back of this woman's car in broad daylight after she became broken down by, she herself had hit a deer at 11:20 a.m. She pulled into the breakdown lane, called the police. Several cars passed by her broken down car, and then all of a sudden the truck plowed into the back of her. He initially said, the driver, that he didn't see her because he was checking traffic in his mirrors. He later admitted that he was listening to but not watching pornographic movies on his laptop. He then admitted that he did occasionally glance at the movies. However, testing by the Western New York Regional Computer Forensic Lab determined that in fact he had been clicking through different pornographic movies on an adult website before the crash. Terrible, just terrible. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. If not, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.